Welcome to the Somos Sunnyside podcast, brought to you by the Office of Public Information, where we are sharing stories about the bright side of education.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. My name is Jose Gastelum and I'm the proud superintendent of the Sunnyside Unified School District. And we're in that time of year where we are definitely recognizing students, recognizing staff, and they're just well-deserved accolades that are just occurring at this time of year, whether they're scholarships, whether they're teacher recognitions. And today we have the great pleasure and honor of having our special guest. She's from Elvira Elementary School, teaches second grade, and her name is Mrs. Arlene Wade Peña. So welcome.
Hi.
So Mrs. Wade Peña, to our listeners out there, you probably already know what I'm going to talk about if you pay attention to any social media, news. She was just awarded such a prestigious award, and we had the opportunity to catch it live. And so last Wednesday, we had the opportunity to surprise Mrs. Wade Peña, and she received the Esperanza Teacher of the Year Award through Chicanos por la Causa. And let me get that straight, because every time we say Esperanza Teacher of the Year, they think it's Esperanza Elementary School, and it is an award that Chicanos por la Causa does on a yearly basis, and it is titled Esperanza Teacher of the Year Award. And there is only 4 recipients, from what I understand, in the whole state of Arizona.
Yes.
And you are one of them, Mrs. Wade Peña. So how do you feel about that?
Honestly, it was very shocking. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I'm going to be very honest, Mr. Costello. I was thinking Kelly forgot to tell me there was a principal walkthrough coming and people were coming in my room. So I was just teaching, doing my thing. And I honestly didn't turn around until I heard you say, "Why is she still teaching?"
You heard me, huh? I know. I don't know how to whisper, so that's probably what happened. My wife usually gets on me because I don't know how to whisper. But it is so funny you bring that up. So I can't even imagine, because I want to paint a picture for the listeners here. It just wasn't like one camera coming in and a couple people coming in. There's probably about 15, 20 people that walked into your classroom.
Yes.
At least a set of 3 or 4 cameras and cell phones, another 3 or 4 cell phones. And what cracked me up is that you never broke stride in terms of being interrupted. You continued to teach your students. And that's when you probably heard me and says, "I can't believe she's still teaching."
Yeah, that's exactly when.
And so, it was just one of those special moments, and back in the day we used to call it a Kodak moment, right? But our young listeners probably wouldn't understand what Kodak moment is, and it was just super special, and just want to really talk a little bit about the award. As I mentioned earlier, one of 4, you're one of 4 in Arizona, and it comes with a $5,000 check.
Yes.
To use any way you'd like to use, and then the school gets a $2,500 check. So it's a great recognition, not only for the work you do, but also for the school and for the Sunnyside community. And so, as you relive that day, and I'm sure I asked you when you came in this afternoon if you were still numb, because it's such a big deal. When you relive that day, what do you remember about that day?
The excitement on my kids' face. Like, the kids in my class were so excited. They still talk about it every day. They're like, "Miss Wade, remember when everybody was here and they made you cry?" And I'm like, yes. So just being able to see how excited they were for me, because I'm always celebrating their accomplishments and making sure that they know that they're special and they're unique in our school community. So having their reaction, that's the high I'm riding.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wouldn't expect anything else from you, any other response from you. For you, it's always about the students, and you never forget that, and that's why you're earning this recognition, and it's so well deserved. I had the opportunity to visit your classroom during Level Reading Week, and I walked out of there feeling so good that our students were in such good hands. With a caring individual who deeply cared, and you run a tight ship in your classroom, and kids know the expectations, and and they're super engaged. They're super engaged in the learning, and you can tell. You can tell that they've been well prepared. So thank you for all you do. For our kiddos, and to the parents out there, you're very lucky that your children are with such an amazing teacher. Like Mrs. Wade Peña, and so I would have loved to have my kids in your classroom, and not that my kids' teachers weren't good, because they were great, but I could drop off my kid and leave knowing that they're in good hands, and so that's a testament to the work you do every day.
Oh, thank you. Well, being a student from the Sunnyside School District, I went to Drexel Elementary, I went to Sierra, I graduated in '96 from Sunnyside. I didn't always want to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. I didn't. That's not what I wanted to do. College wasn't an option. It wasn't something my parents said we had to do. We didn't have the money to do it. Growing up on the South Side, it was hard. Mm-hmm. So when I decided to go to Pima, and I first got an associate's in applied science in early child care, I was like, oh, I could be a child care worker. Yeah. And then I started as an instructional aide at Elvira. The teachers there were like, Arlene, you're so good. Like, go back to school, get your teaching degree. You can do this. And I was like, student loans, here we come. We're going to do this. Yeah. And so, like, I treat my kids in my class and everybody that comes through my doors, all the kids at Elvira, like, you can do this. This is not a dream. Like, you're gonna go to college. This is something you have to do.
Yeah, it's something we tell our students all the time. College isn't a dream; it's a plan, right? And it's the want. You gotta be motivated, inspired, and want to accomplish these great things and give back to this great community. And so, your story's remarkable. You beat me to the questions, but it's you're homegrown, and that's what makes this special. I mean, I know you've had challenges. I know you've had barriers, and you've overcome all those obstacles to get where you're at today. And so, as you mentioned, you were a Drexel Panther, a Sierra Ram, and a Sunnyside Blue Devil, graduate, and so. It's awesome that you give back to this community. And at one time, you were an instructional assistant, weren't you?
Yes.
In our classrooms at Elvira, right?
At Elvira.
And so it just goes to show. So for those listeners that are thinking about teaching, those that are instructional assistants or not, it's doable. It's something you can do. And yeah, sometimes it comes with loans, and sometimes you have to pay for it. But at the end of the day, it's quality of life, right? It's being happy, knowing you're making a difference, and paying it forward. Yeah. Really paying it forward. And so, what was neat there is things come full circle. I know your husband was there that day. Your kids were there that day, and so. And you had family there. I saw the Sanchez family there, and
they're my extended family.
Yeah, your extended family. Didn't know the connection. I grew up playing Little League with Jesse Sanchez and knew Dolores, and had seen the family. And so when I saw them there, I'm like, wait a minute, what's the connection here? And they told me. So, tell me about why is it special? Why was it special to have your family there, your husband, your kids? I mean, what a great thing for your kids to see. What an inspiration for your children to say, look, that's my mom, she's successful. You're setting the example for them, and that's what's cool about the whole thing, and that's what almost brought tears to my eyes when I saw your kids there. But tell us about that.
So I'm a first generation college student, only one out of 7 children to go to college. And so when I went back to school and got my master's, my 2 youngest kids, and my 2 oldest, because I have 2 older kids too, got to see me walk across the stage. And that was like amazing. Like, I thought that was the biggest day of my life. But seeing my son and daughter's face when they walked through the door, and I see how excited they were for me that I was being recognized for something that they're used to. They're used to me being mom, the teacher at home, mom, the teacher everywhere we go, or in the baseball field, on the field as a coach, they call me Mom Arlene. Everybody, all the kids. So seeing Marcos get teary-eyed and Allie get teary-eyed was incredible to see. And for my husband to be there as well, his work ethic is I'm not going to miss work. I can't miss work. I have to be at work. Mm-hmm. And for him to take the time off to be there too was really exciting. And having Mrs. Sanchez there, That's what broke me when I saw her walk in the door. She is my second mom. She's everything to me. When my mom passed away, she took my kids and she watched them. I went back to work at 3 weeks with Marcos, a month with Ali. So she's raised my kids, and having her there, that was the best thing, because she hugged me and she said, Mija, I'm so proud of you. See, look, you can do it. And that was what broke me. I was like, yes, I can. I did it for you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's so well deserved. It brings me chills just hearing you talk about just family, right? You talk about those people that are most influential in your life, and some of us sometimes don't have the choice. We lose parents or we lose a loved one, and there's always that person that steps up. In this case, you're talking about Miss Sanchez, your extended family, and serving as the mom, the nana, in the absence of your mother. And, I can relate. I lost my mom in my early 20s. And so, it's never been the same since, and so it's, these are moments you can never have, with your parents if they're not here. And so, but, I think the powerful piece is, we said earlier, it gets paid forward,
it does.
And things happen for a reason, and I truly believe in that. I truly believe in karma and why things happen, and things happen for a reason, and all your hard work is paying off. When I think of kind of your journey, if you will, I really think of our students. I think of our student experience, and I think of our graduate profile. We often talk about identity, purpose, and agency, and we talk about how we want our students to develop a strong sense of identity, purpose, and agency so they can achieve the conditions they want in their life.
Yes.
And you're a living example. You're a Sunnyside product, and you fit that mode like perfectly. I think we're gonna have to throw you on our poster there. We're gonna need a new poster and throw you on there because you fit that. You have an identity. There's a purpose why you do things, and then your agency. You just have that resiliency. You've learned to advocate for yourself, and you learn to overcome the most challenging times. And that's what it's all about. Because life isn't easy. Let's be honest. I mean, we're going to be faced with challenges. We're going to be faced with tough situations, and your character's judged by how you handle that. I mean, I always tell my own kids, it's easy to quit.
Yeah.
It's easy to quit and give up, but it's hard to fight, and it's hard to get through it and find solutions and be successful, And so I applaud you for that. I mean, this is an awesome recognition, and as we clean up our tears here, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. So hold on.
Sunnyside students can have it all, learning and growing to graduate college, career, and community ready. Don't believe us? Just watch. At Sunnyside Unified School District, we are preparing our graduates with real-world skills and experiences. Our graduates are leaving Sunnyside to pursue an Ivy League education, becoming collegiate-level athletes, and earning prestigious scholarships such as the Gates Millennium, Dell, and Dorrance.
All right, we are back. Mrs. Arlene Wade Peña, second grade teacher, Elvira Elementary Eagles. She is our Teacher of the Year for the Esperanza Award, Chicanos por la Causa Award. And again, I keep repeating this, but when you think of all the teachers in the state of Arizona, there's thousands of them, thousands. And you are one of 4 teachers that received this award. And it's definitely a prestigious award you should be super proud of. And it came with $5,000, and I think the question, I heard the little comments your students were making, like, Miss, you're rich. What are you going to do? And blah, blah. And, they're just, they're being kids. And so what are you going to do with the $5,000?
So, well, to be honest, they want me to buy them pickles.
Pickles, huh?
Yeah, and they want me to spend all the money on them.
Okay, that's a lot of pickles.
Yeah. And so I said, okay. So we're going to do a big end of the year school party with some of the money. Okay. I'm going back to kindergarten next year, so I am going to purchase a lot of stuff for kindergarten. And then I am going to spend a good amount of money on a bathroom remodel.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need those... what is that? The soaking tubs are back in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, before it used to be jacuzzi tubs. Now they're soaking tubs, and after a long day's work, you need a good bath, right? Good tub. Well, that's cool. I know, of course we appreciate, we're not complaining here, but, I mean, $5,000 doesn't go a long way anymore, right?
No.
I mean, back in the day, you could probably get a whole Disneyland vacation out of it, but nowadays, I don't know. So, that's super awesome. So how many years now have you been teaching in the
So
district?
I've been in the district since 2004, and I've been teaching since 2014.
Awesome. Okay. So you've been teaching for 11 years now, right? If
Yeah.
my math is correct. So so I mean, time flies for sure. And so what do you see yourself doing, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What's your what are your career goals? What do you want to do when you grow up?
Everybody always asks me, like, what are you going to do? Like, do you want to do admin? Do you want to go to district? And I've got to say, no, my heart is in the classroom. Like, I see myself retiring from the classroom. I don't know what grade I'll be in 10, 11 years, but I definitely will still be teaching. The kids that come through my classroom is what keeps me going. And then when I see them out in public when they're older and they have kids and they're sending their kids to Elvira, that is the best thing, the best feeling.
Yeah, you're gonna reach that age. Unfortunately, I've already reached that age where I'm seeing the little brothers and little sisters and their kids come in, and I have a lot of we have a lot of employees that were former students of mine, and so that's neat. I mean, I love that answer of and that's okay. I mean, that's where your heart's at. Your heart's in the classroom, and honestly, that's where we need you. We need amazing teachers like yourself and the great staff at Elvira. Miss Brooks Cavaletto has done an outstanding job of creating that culture, and that school's been very successful for a long time. Starting with the leadership of Mr. Townsend there, and now moving on to Miss Brooks Cavaletto, and just amazing teachers. I love walking into that campus and visiting classrooms because it really is a positive learning environment. Definitely a great student experience for students, and that's what we want. We want our students to have that experience and to be prepared and build that confidence as they move from grade to grade, and so I mean that's what we're getting there. So one of the things you mentioned a little bit earlier about that you were an instructional assistant, and I'm sure you did an amazing job. Sometimes we have instructional assistants that are just ready to teach. They just got those qualities of a great teacher, and all it takes is a little push, little motivation. I mean, is there anybody out there in your life that influenced you? Any particular person, a teacher, a colleague that really just influenced you, that kind of helped shape your dreams, your life, and push you towards getting after that degree?
So in 5th grade, my teacher, Mr. Dan Miller at Drexel, told me one day we were doing a career poster or something, and I had put that I wanted to be a lawyer. And he said, back in the day, they called us by their last name. He was like, Wade, you're going to be a teacher. And I said, no, I'm not. Nope, I want to make money. That's what I told him. And he put the seed in my head. Like, he honestly put that seed in my head. And it never went away from that day forward. And then when I got to Elvira, I worked for a year with Mrs. Santos. She's the one that hired me as an instructional assistant. And she kept telling me, you would be better as a teacher, go back to school. And I was like, yeah, I was a single mom of 2 kids. Like, that's really not going to happen right now. And then I want to say Callie Brooks was a big help. She was teaching 3rd grade at that time too. And she's like, Arlene, you could do it. Like, you take these kids, you're in small group with them, you're working with them, they're learning. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And it just, everybody at Elvira was like, you got this, Arlene, you could do it. And so when Andy took over as principal, I was already back at school getting my BA, and I went to him and I said, Mr. Townsend, I'm going to be doing my student teaching. Like, I would really, really love to do it here at Elvira. And he put me with Miss Jen Goitia, and that was the best experience. I did my student teaching in 1st grade. And Jen just looked at me one day and she's like, here you go, Arlene, there's a class. And she walked out, and I had it for 3 weeks. And it was the best experience because she had that much faith in me. Andy had that much faith in me that they knew those kids were, going to do it. She sat in the back of the room doing paperwork. She never left me alone, but she didn't butt in. She never, directed me, gave me instructions. She let me figure it out. And when I had questions, she definitely would answer them. She would say, yeah, you did this, you did that. And they just had so much influence on me that I was like, yeah, I got this. I could do it.
Right. That's awesome. That's a great story. It's funny that you bring up student teaching because, I think sometimes you get student teacher mentors, right? Or cooperating teachers. I don't know what they call them nowadays. But mentors, right? Student teacher mentors. And the whole idea of student teaching is to develop your own identity, your own teaching style, and to learn, right? And so I think sometimes people get caught up of wanting the mentee to follow the style of the mentor, and that's not what it's all about, I know, and now you're paying it forward because I know you have a student teacher in your classroom who is also an Elvira grad.
Yes,
right?
She is.
And so I believe we hired her as well, right? Yep. So she's going to be teaching at Elvira. So
she's going to be a kindergarten teacher.
It comes full circle, right? So she's going to be your partner in crime next year, huh?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about now that the roles are reversed. You had these amazing mentors and that said, here, take it by the reins, it's yours, go learn and go do it. And you did, and now you're paying it forward.
And, and they tell you when you're a mentor teacher, you can't leave them alone. You have to do this. You're responsible. And we are. In the end, I am the teacher in that classroom. I'm the certified person in that classroom. And I am responsible for them learning. But I stood back and I told Miss Lopez, well, what do you want to do? And the look on her face, the shock, the like you're asking me for my opinion, you're not going to tell me? And I told her, I said, you are my equal. We are teaching this class together. You have all the say in the world too. This is not you're going to do it my way or the highway. We are working together to get these second graders where they need to be. And so I think when that is put in play, it gives them so much more identity and who they are and what they need to be.
Yeah, it definitely gives them confidence. And it's funny, I go back to when I did my student teaching a long time ago, probably I think it was 95 or 96. I think you were still in high school when that happened. And so I remember I did it at Desert View High School, and my first class ate my lunch. I mean, that my student, my cooperating teacher at the time, or mentor teacher, Mr. Juan Rojas, and he's like, here you go, you got the reins and go teach. And I was in there and I wanted to be liked and their friend, and they just kicked my butt. And I remember going home that day saying, screw this, I don't want to teach these bunch of punks and this and that. And I was upset. I remember I slept from 6 o'clock to the next morning, and I woke up and I said, you know what, I'm not going to let them get the best of me, and it's that resiliency you got to go back in with, and how to go in there and run a tight ship and show them who's boss. And
all props to you, because high school would not be my cup of tea at all.
No, high school was has always been my passion, but it was just you remember those days, and some people have to, but I think one thing you learn in this district, in this community, is how to be resilient, right, and how to fight through those tough times, and kids are going to do what you allow them to do, right?
Yes.
And so that's, it's no different anywhere else. And so, I had to share that story because I didn't quite think I'd ever be a teacher after that first couple of days. But
I think she felt the same way, because she would look at me and she would be like, are you not going to help me? And I'm like, you're going to be on your own next year. So you got to be able to think on your feet and figure out on your own, how are you going to fix this situation? What are we going to do? Problem solve on the drop of a dime. What can we fix it? How can we fix it? And she was like, but you just like, let me. Yeah, I'm going to just let you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a great experience. Like, I feel like that's one of the best things that I'm doing right now is making sure that the teachers that are in my class for student teaching, because she's my third one now, have the ability to be great teachers.
Absolutely. And that we hang on to them, right?
I know. My other two left. One's in Phoenix and one's in Chicago. So,
oh, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes life gets in the way. But glad that Ms. Lopez is gonna be coming back and joining the Elvira team. Any last thoughts, as we close, with our show today? Any last thoughts, any comments, any shout outs that you want to put out there?
There's so many people that I want to thank. Like, at Elvira, we have a saying, once an eagle, always an eagle. But, like, once you're a Sunnyside student, star, whatever, you're all, like, this is your community. This is where you come back to. I mean, this is my home. Sunnyside is my home, not just Elvira.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're here. And we definitely end our graduation speeches that way, whether it's once a Blue Devil, always a Blue Devil, once a Jaguar, always a Jaguar, and once a Lion, always a Lion. And so it's the same for all our middle and elementary schools. I think there's a great deal of pride when you attend school in this district and are able to serve this community. I say this time and time again, I'm so grateful to serve a community that served me, and I know you feel the same way.
Yes.
And there's a lot of other people that feel the same way. And so, thank you for all you do. Thank you for being loyal to this community, to this district, and thank you for the amazing things you do every day. And I'm glad that I know we're going to honor you at a board meeting here soon. Give you a recognition that you really deserve, and I hope your family comes out. And last, I want to give a shout out to your second graders. So a big shout out, a big hi to Mrs. Wade Peña's second grade class. I hope you guys are listening, and I can't wait to visit your classroom again soon. So
they can't wait to have you. They know your birthday because you challenge them to figure out your birthday. They know how old you are, so they've been waiting to tell you.
And they're so cute. I got some. I was there for Love of Reading Week, and of course, children always ask how old you are, and so I just gave them my birthday, and I said, "Figure it out. Here's the math problem of the day," and so I did get a packet of letters from your class, and there's a bunch of guesses on there. There's a lot of them that are correct too. So they did figure out my age, and so I'm gonna have to go back and I guess admit my age. Jeez.
They loved the book you read to them. I mean, they just love anybody that comes in and shows them love. So thank you, Mr. Gastelum, for being awesome.
Oh, well, you're truly welcome. I mean, I my fix, earlier when you talked about never leaving the classroom, that's the hardest thing when you leave a school building, right? When I came to district office, it was hard not to be around kids every day. So, I go get my fix every day. I visit a few schools every day, and I call it my fix. You go talk to students, they ground you, they make you feel good, and they do amazing things. And we'll end with this as just a cute little story. We were visiting one of our elementary schools the other day, and it was a kindergarten class, and they were doing some math in there, and so they're figuring out, they're doing some subtraction, I believe, or something. They had story problems, and they had to figure out whether it was going to be adding or subtraction, what they were going to use. And I'm probably using all the wrong terms here, but the young girl who in kindergarten, I said, tell me how you got that right, and so she walks me through the whole problem. I said, gosh, I go, you are so smart. And she says, my tata helps me every day.
Aww.
And it just, oh man, I said, well, tell your tata he is so smart too. And so, it definitely takes a village, and whether you're a mom, a dad, a nana, tata, tío, tía, I mean, we thank you for all you do for our kids and being that support staff, or being that support for our kids. And so we'll end it with that happy story. And so once again, we want to thank you for coming on the show. We wish you an amazing rest of the year, and we hope that, you know, we can spread your story. And we have a lot of other amazing teachers that are doing great things that hopefully are getting recognized as well. And so thank you, teachers out there, for all you do. And it's going to get busy here in this last month of school as we have closing ceremonies and graduations and promotions. And so, you know, it's what it's all about, you know, and spending it with our families and celebrating with our families as we move on. So this concludes this episode of Somos Sunnyside. Hasta la próxima. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it entertaining. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and share our podcast with la comunidad. For updates on future episodes and more, be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website at susd12.org. We appreciate your support and can't wait to have you back for the next episode. Hasta la próxima vez en Somos Sunnyside.